64% of Filipino employees are actively considering a job move within 12 months. You have just been regularized as an employee. You did so well in your revalida. And the next thing you're thinking is actually moving jobs. We have 5 different generations in the workplace. 77% of the workforce are now Gen Zs and Millennials. What's more important right now is growth, meaning flexible work-life balance. When we talk about retaining the younger people whose values are not the same as our values, what are the innovative ways to make them stay?
Salary and benefits should be hygienic. Companies who have high engagement scores have 30% better operating results and profit margins. It sounds cliché, but it's really your people. It really boils down to your human capital. At the end of the day, you're only as good as the talent you have in your organization.
What is it that we're getting wrong about the future of work? Before we dive in, I want to ask you something. We are just beginning, and our just cost, the reason we make this show, is to make every corner of the world we can reach a little bit more inspiring, a little bit more human, and a little bit more empathetic. People who watch this show tell us it is making a difference in how they lead, how they parent, and how they show up every single day. That means everything to us. But we don't have a lot of viewers yet, and we want to go as far as our passion can reach. So if you believe in what we are building, hit subscribe right now. It's completely free. And don't stop there. Share this with someone you love and ask them to subscribe too. Because every person who joins this community is one more life we get to reach. We promise you, we will always do our best. Now, let's get into today's episode. I think you're going to love this. James, you specialize in people strategy, in rewards, in benefits, and you sit on so many workplace excellence data than most of the governments here. So I want to ask you, what is it that we're getting wrong about the future of work?
For me, candidly, it's not really getting wrong, but I think the fear of AI is really seeping through the work environment. But the real issue at the end of the day is that have people really studied the vagaries and the circumstances of AI? So I think that's where people are really pausing and contemplating what to do next. But I think what's really critical is that companies should embrace it and sponsor it. And of course, invest in their people to upskill and learn the ramifications of AI and its value to each and every organization. So that's how I see it right now. At the same time, I think there's an overemphasis on pay. But more often than not, what I really see as to highly engaged workforces and highly successful companies is that there is a high engagement factor. And that is really borne about by culture. That's why instead of focusing on the basics like pay and benefits, which are candidly hygienic, which are necessary. Of course, if you underpay too much, you're going to obviously lose staff. But if you focus on strengthening your culture, the value proposition of your company, to both your internal stakeholders and of course your external stakeholders such as your business partners and your clients, then you'll really reap the rewards. I've seen that. I really give clear-cut case. Of course, I'm biased. We at Willis Towers Watson, we have 6,000 employees. But basically, 95% of our employees are under the Global In-House Center business category, or essentially a BPO. Our attrition rate has markedly always been way below market. The market is, let's say, 15% for a BPO. We were hovering at about 9 to 11%. And to this very day, it still holds out. And we have a great feature that a lot of our alumni come back. And you ask them at the end of the day, are you coming back for the pay? Because when we pay, yes, we are competitive, but we are not at the top tier. It's basically boiling down because they love the culture and they love the people they work with. So I think that's what we really have to focus on. In the years I've been exposed to high-performing companies, I think that's the hallmark of major high-performing companies. And you will see that there is a distinct complementation between the highly engagement force and your financial and operational results. it is proven in our research that companies who have high engagement scores more often than not have a lead up of about 30% better operating results and profit margins.
So you're saying, James, here there is a direct correlation between engagement and performance.
There is a direct correlation between content, engaged employees, and the results of your organization.
What do you mean by content engagement? You mentioned there's a direct relationship between content engagement.
Meaning that whatever work you're doing and your people are highly satisfied or happy in what they're doing will relate to your financial success. There's a direct correlation.
That's very interesting what you're saying, diba? Because a lot of times when we think about, people leaving companies, for example, or if you want to motivate people, we always look at pay, right?
Jerk reaction more often than not.
So you're saying now, in your research, that is not the number one in terms of the hierarchy of priorities.
Because I'll tell you why. In the Philippines, the mindset of the Filipinos is this: what is your monthly basic salary?
Okay.
How much am I getting every month? That's basically the mindset. However, we should go beyond that. What you'd really focus on is how to engage them, make them more committed, and at the same time, have a purpose in what they're doing to find that value proposition. As to why am I here? What am I contributing to society? What's the greater good I can help? So that's what we're trying to emphasize.
These things are huge, right? Huge words like what's my purpose, what's my contribution to society. The normal person in their jobs, right, would focus on what's on their table today at the present time. It's very difficult to actually always, every day, look at that big purpose.
But I think it also relates to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As you go higher up in the chain, you have more purposive and noble ambitions, correct? Than the basic, I should have this type of salary, etc. That's why I'm saying, as I said earlier, Cherry, salary and benefits should be hygienic. You should be market competitive at the very least. Of course, don't underpay because you're going to lose
Correct.
people.
When you're saying salaries and benefits must be hygienic, what do you mean by that?
That they must at least be competitive within your industry or your sector where you're playing in.
All right. And
However, like in the case of the BPO world, in the past, we used to lump them together, but the universe where they attract talent is basically the entire work environment, the general industry. So you've got to have that mindset that how do you distinguish yourselves relative to your pay and benefits in terms of the value proposition you provide, and at the same time, strengthen your company culture so that they will find meaning and purpose, and at the same time, a strong desire to remain and be committed to your organization.
that's nice what you say about culture, James. No, I'm reminded of this Maori proverb. No, Heiyaha temi nui otib, hetangata hetangata hetangata, which means ask me what is the most important thing in this world. It is people. So when you talk about culture, it is all about people. But when we talk to leaders, for example, some of the leaders will say, "I love the job, I love the challenge, but what I don't like about my job is that people management thing, right? Because people are really, sometimes unpredictable." So how can we inspire leaders to embrace this part of their roles?
So I can relate to that. Prior to my being made initially managing consultant of, we used to be called Watson Wyatt when I joined in November 2006. And I came from the outside, so I was wondering why they hired me. But more often than not, in the roster of leadership, you either should be either an actuary, a math major, or an HR consultant. I was neither. I was a lowly insurance broker for non-life insurance. However, they hired me for one specific reason. I was told by the gent who hired me. They want a business person. They want somebody who understands business, who can relate to the C-suite and the marketplace relative to the human capital benefits and risk management issues of companies. So I learned the hard way. And remember, I'm a baby boomer. So I came from the mindset where in the past, financial capital was given a lot of prominence and importance. But as I grew in my job, I'll be celebrating 20 years with Willis Towers Watson this year. And more than ever, I realized the most important asset, it sounds cliche, but it's really your people. It really boils down to your human capital and how you nurture them, you invest in them, and you prosper them. That's basically the bottom line. Because at the end of the day, you're only as good as the talent you have in your organization, and that's where the rubber hits the road. That's why you'll see now a lot of significant companies, even domestic conglomerates, have pivoted towards focusing more on their people, culture, and requirements.
Let's talk about these people, right? We have 5 different generations in the workplace, right? We Gen Xs, we are, very few.
Well, thanks for including me in your generation.
I'm looking at the stat here, and it
Yes.
says here 64% of Filipino employees are actively considering a job move within 12 months. And this is so striking to me as a stat, right? I mean, this is, I need to take a pause here, a recoil here, because you have just been regularized as an employee, right? And you have just, did so well in your revalida. And the next thing you're thinking is actually moving jobs. I mean, this is real, right?
Yeah, no, I could relate to that. I won't mention I had a specific direct report to me who we just hired after a tedious hiring process. After several candidates, we hired this lady for a specific role. Because if I say the role, she'll know who she is if she watches this podcast. Immediately after we hired her, roughly about 5 days later, she came to me. They said, James, I'm planning to resign and move to XYZ. I said, why? I think I'll be more comfortable there. I said, you haven't even given us a chance yet. It's only been 5 days. I think it will look poorly on you as unprofessional, at the same time that you weren't deliberate in your thought process relative to this job opportunity. So to this very day, that person's still with us, and that person, I won't mention the gender, is thriving like crazy, and has just been promoted to a wider geography role in the region. So I don't know where humans come from, because maybe call me old fashioned. I am 62 years old. I've only had 3 employers in my life. My first employer straight out of college. Then I accepted the insurance broking job. Initially, I was very reluctant, but they gave me a pay of $2,000, and they said, "Oh, we're the oldest and largest American insurance brokerage." Okay, great. Then they told me the roster of their clientele, which was like the who's who of Fortune 500. So I took it on. I have no regrets, because 6 years later, they sent me to New York to the world headquarters, and I was trained there. I lived in New York City for 7 years and worked there together with my wife, who took her residency in New York. So initially, I moved because of pay. But more than ever, now that is technically 42 years later, I realize that it's a people issue all the time. That's why even in our company, when I am the last, I am obviously a dying breed, not literally but figuratively. Majority of our people are millennials and Gen Zs, and I'm sure we have Gen As coming in already. And I had to adjust myself to them. Because everybody asks me, "Sir, can you be my mentor?" Okay, sure. And I always tell myself, when I was growing up, I never really had a mentor. If I had a problem, I'd run to my father and I'll talk to my wife. That's basically it. But a lot of people need mentoring. And I realized that it's part of the culture nowadays. So I had to adopt. And I'm willing to provide time and effort for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hear your story. It's a story about loyalty, right? You said in all your career years.
I've only had 3 employers, yeah.
3 employers. So,
And my wife calls me Forrest Gump. No, but I'll tell you why. Because I've never applied for a job.
okay, you've always been asked to move, invited.
I've been invited to join.
Okay.
So my wife calls me Forrest Gump, that there's always a box of chocolates waiting.
But
Yeah.
I'm very, very curious here. It seems to me that loyalty, right? And I know that because I can, empathize with that. Loyalty is such an important, value during our time. But during these present times, no? And 77% of the workforce are now Gen Zs and millennials, right? Almost getting to 80%, whose values are different, no? They have broken the contract of loyalty. What's more important right now is growth, meaning flexible, work-life balance. It's a lot of maintenance right now.
I think it's also changed because, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the current crop of talent realize that there's so much opportunity around. Unlike in my time, remember I started at the height of an economic crisis in the aftermath of the assassination of Senator Aquino. There were no jobs. There were hardly any jobs. You can really walk the streets and there's hardly any jobs. Nowadays, I think you just open up your laptop. There's jobs on LinkedIn.
Yes.
People will be offering
And the gig
you.
economy,
In
right?
the gig economy, yeah.
correct.
And Job Street will tell you there's so many opportunities. So the times have changed, and obviously the opportunities have likewise revolutionized. Yeah.
That's when we talk about retaining the younger people whose values are not the same as our values, right? I mean, have you seen in your work, and I'm sure you deal with a lot of HR practices
Right.
here, innovative ways to ensure that our millennials, the next generation of leaders, and our, Gen Z people will stay in the company? What are the innovative ways to make them stay?
So what we've done in the company is that we have a very strong corporate social responsibility arm. We call it WAVE. So it's called Willis Towers Watson W, Associate Volunteerism Experience. So it's called WAVE. And we do a lot of projects. And it's three-pronged. We focus on the environment, so we plant trees. We clean up parts of Manila Bay. And then we have another prong on education. So we have this project with the Cubao Kalakal kids. So these are street kids in Cubao where we help them. We provide them sustainable livelihood and a chance for an educational scholarship, amongst others. Yeah. So at the same time, we have a lot of clubs. There's a mountaineering club. There's a running club. There's a chess club. So it's like high school all over again. There's so many. We even have a chorale, which does very well. And it really, strengthens the culture.
So it's culture.
It's really culture. And I think you have to invest in it.
And that's backed by data.
It's backed by data.
Okay. Interestingly about this, before we even move out of retention and attrition, unless there are questions from people, the HR community that we have listening here, is I read somewhere that retention crisis is also a trust issue. People have tools to do their job well, but hear this one, but they feel less connected, they feel less cared for, and are less trusting of the people running the show. So we have a trust issue here.
This is my take on this, Cherry. In the aftermath of the pandemic, and we all do basically work from home. I'll give you an example. Our company, we are on a pure hybrid basis. The minimum requirement is to come to the office twice a week. You come to the office, there's hardly anybody there. And we've never shifted to RTO, to return to office,
Okay.
a full RTO. If you go to Filipino companies, they're mostly on RTO. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. Most Filipino companies are on RTO already, while we're still on hybrid. And we've realized if we go full RTO, we may lose talent.
So hybrid is now
It's
you
now
know,
ingrained in us.
that's
It is
now
the
the
policy.
culture that
Yeah.
needs to be done. But it's hard, right? Because, like, for example, a lot of things I still think are more optimal when you actually have face-to-face
And
interactions.
going back to that question, I really believe that a face-to-face meeting and being in the office physically really strengthens culture because you are interacting with your colleagues. You get to know them more as persons. Unlike a virtual meeting wherein you can't really feel the other person, right? And, obviously, there are restraints there.
So how do you bridge this? You're saying now culture is
Well,
important.
we try to have activities like, for example, like what I try to do. If somebody has a birthday, we just go out for lunch, and we go out with a team so that they can interact and socialize with each other, because they also miss that. So I think you really have to strengthen the physical presence. You can't demand it. That's the thing. You cannot demand it. But if there's a social event, then go ahead.
I can chime in here.
Oh, we have a question. Yes, from Irvin. Let's.
Not really a question, but more of an insight that I wanted to give because I'm the immediate past president of the International Coaching Federation. And since the pandemic, we've been very slow in pivoting from virtual events to face-to-face events. It was only in 2025 that we actually decided to strategically shift from virtual to actually doing face-to-face events. And to our surprise, there's really a big clamor from our coaches. They feel there's more energy when you are interacting with each other, talking to each other. It brings a different kind of warmth. And I think that takes care of the connectedness that you are talking about earlier. Now, in the workplace setting, I think on the being less cared for, I think that's very, very much true, especially during the pandemic, because part of what we do during that time was really check in. And checking in equals empathy. And empathy was really one competency that leaders just didn't have naturally. It's not in the DNA. It's more of deliver, 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 results, results, results. So to me, to James' point, it's really bringing people together, especially if in their case it's no RTO at all. In our case, I can say that we are in a hybrid mode, which works very well. There's flexibility, but to us, this is a sweet spot for collaboration and at the same time for working with each other.
Yeah, I fully agree with you because, like in our case, when in the height of the pandemic, we established this program called Kumustahan. So I would basically meet every week a dozen people online, obviously, and check how they're doing at home, how are things. And we didn't talk business. We were talking about whether they're a plantito or plantita, which I'm not. So I had to empathize with them. And then at the same time, talk about their pets. Because a lot of the people that really thrived during the pandemic.
Correct. What Irvin is saying here, right? I mean, things out of your comfort zone, like check-ins, for example. Very
Check-ins.
simple. What Irvin said, check-in equals empathy. Ganun lang pala ka-simple yun, no? Pero you're
And I think
seeing-
empathy is an underrated virtue. And more than ever as a leader, it's critical. It's critical in order to establish, a successful working relationship with your people. And I'm doing that right now, Cherry, whether at Willis Towers Watson or in our village. I spend time with our
Checking in and asking
our
people.
maintenance people, our security, and just checking on them. How are things?
They appreciate that. And a lot of
Yeah.
leaders will say it takes so much time to actually understand people and go to where they are. But check-in is probably,
Because you've got
one of
to feel what they're doing, what they're saying, how they feel about their job, how they can improve, and how you can provide the necessary resources for them to be more efficient and effective. I think you really have to spend a bit more time with people. Here's the thing. This person of James, you have high EQ. And I never claim that, but one thing I know is that I like to deal with people and I interact with people from all walks of society. I am comfortable dealing with the taipans and the C-suites in this country and the average guy on the street, whether you're a security guard or... I remember one time I had a client. I was pitching for this huge account. The secretary of the CFO of this major food company told me, alam niyo, Mr. Matti, gusto namin kayo. Bakit? Kami yung maliit na tao, binabati niyo po kami. Sa reception, yung mga security guard kami, binabati niyo po. The incumbent who was servicing the account, just go straight to the superiors, only to the VIPs. I said, no. Everybody's the same. Everybody's equal. At the end of the day, lahat tayo empleyado lang po dito. So that made a mark on me. And I heard this in 1997 when I just came back from New York. And that person said, sir, at least pinapansin niyo po kami. And I'll tell you this, there is some value in it. The people you don't recognize, the receptionist, the secretary, and assistants, they can block you when you're trying to...
They are very powerful.
They're very powerful.
Gatekeepers.
They have influence. They can be gatekeepers. Yeah.
But regardless, right, I admire what you're saying. Pantay-pantay lang tayo. If a leader understands that, right? And
Well, at the end of the
spends
day,
more
I'm just an
time.
employee also.
Yes, correct. Yeah. We have another question from the HR of BPI Banco, Ron.
Hi, Ron. Good
Hi,
morning.
Ron.
Hi, Coach Terry. Hi, James.
Hi, Ron.
Just to follow through the retention topic earlier, over the past few months, kasi we've been closely monitoring our attrition trends, and a clear pattern is beginning to emerge. So while our hiring efforts continue to stabilize headcount, the rate at which employees are leaving is starting to outpace our gains. So this raises a broader question about where does the ownership truly lies? Not just in managing exit, but in preventing them. So I'll be a bit more direct here. So should we start holding leaders more accountable for attrition, or at what point does employee turnover become a leadership issue, not just an HR issue?
Ron, I'll give you an advice. We are Filipinos, and we have this culture called the Pangulo system. Whoever is the leader, people look up to. So at the end of the day, that's why leadership is extremely important. You have to be a model. You've got to live it on a daily basis. Um, there's a Hebrew word for leadership. It's called manhugot. And it basically says that aside from being the captain of the ship and piloting the organization, you have to be consistent in your actions and your words and your efforts so that people can see the consistency of your leadership. For me, the rubber hits the road in a huge organization like BPI with your middle managers. The people manager of the team is really critical to keeping and sustaining the talent. Because at the end of the day, and I really believe this, people leave because they don't like their leaders. And whether it's in the Philippines or anywhere in the world, that's where the rubber hits the road. So it's really critical that the people manager, whoever is responsible for a given cohort or department, should be, first and foremost, responsible in engaging and sustaining their people.
When you say people manager, do you mean the business manager, or
The business
do you mean
manager,
the
the people,
HR
the
manager?
person, no, the person who does your performance evaluation.
So the business,
Yes,
the
the
business
business.
leader. Okay. Aaron, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you, Coach Sherry.
Okay. The
I'll tell you,
retention,
you're
the
from
training.
BPI. So there was one time, I'll give you a live example. I was at BPI McKinley Hill, and I got exemplary service from both the branch manager and the cashier. Then I'll tell you this, I wrote to both TG and to Gina Ayala. And they responded to me the day after and thanked me for the compliment I gave their people. And I think that's really critical, that you really have to compliment good work and efficiency and do it publicly. So I did it, and I do that more often than not, yeah.
You do a lot of that. I mean,
I do a lot of, even abroad. I just came back from Hong Kong. You have to do it because I'm in the service industry. Of course, I look forward to it too. That's why I think the people issue is really critical. That's where the rubber hits the road in terms of leadership.
I think the great, positive, incredible energy of the leader reproduces excellent work, and it's actually written in the chat there, right? And if you also
It is
have,
infectious.
and in the same regard, the negative energy
Oh,
of the
yeah.
leader limits the performance of the team.
How can you be inspired when your boss comes in every day in a bad mood or is in a sour face, right? You
Correct.
have to be infectious because, as I said, we have a pangulo culture here. Whatever the leader projects, likewise, is felt and at the same time drives the culture of any organization.
Talagang it passes down,
Yeah,
right?
it
And
really
down to
cascades
the
into
front end, the customer
It really
service and
cascades into the
everything.
company. They'll know right away. I'll tell you an example. Every day, I check the banyos of our company. Because this is my mentality. If we can't even have a clean banyo, how can we run a company well? Because for me, I'll tell you why. I take pride being a Filipino. So I want na pagpasok ng mga dayuhan, gusto makita na ang Pinoy ay malinis at maayos ang ating pangmalakad.
Natuwa yung mga kasama ko dito kasi banyo has always been part of our topic. I read somewhere, toilet, the maintenance of that actually speaks of how much you care for your employee.
Right.
You're talking about very simple things, right? The activities that you do, the deliberate effort to bring people together, especially in a hybrid work setup, the smile, the good mood.
Yes. A lot of people find me maluho in my company. Because, well, obviously, you don't grow this big if you don't like to eat, right? But here's the point. Whatever I eat, I let my people eat also. Because for me, I don't want to be selfish about this. I really believe in this leadership mantra. I believe in the buffet line leadership. What it means is this. When there's a buffet, and I practice this, I'm always the last one to eat. Una muna mga tao ko.
It's in the little things, right? It's in
the
the
small,
everyday
and you will
things.
find out whether that's true or not.
And this is culture. We're talking about how important culture is. And you did say that culture has a direct impact in performance. So now we're going to put these two words together, high performing culture.
Yes.
Right? In a high performing culture, people are the greatest asset. Right? And when you look at this high performance culture, there's also a lot of expectations in terms of the contributions of people, right? Sabi nga nila, uubusin ka, thoroughly used up, right? And we find in our research, in our own research, that there's a lot of, negative emotions, exhaustion, anxiety, threat, fear. Pinakamalakas dito, exhaustion, even hostility, kasi pagod na pagod ka na eh. Kapag talagang ginamit ka, di ba? So how do you marry these two together? There's culture that always sticks together with the word high performance, and in high performing, bawal ang putyo-putyo work. You've got to actually go over your job
That's why
description.
nowadays we're emphasizing to our clientele to have a wellness program. I'm not saying that should have a spa inside your office, but basically have this mindset that these are only human beings. Burnout is real. And we really have to be cognizant of that. And we have to emphasize that. That's why, for example, if people are having a difficult time, let them take a break. I always tell them go out because we work right in front of a park in the BGC. Well, go take an hour break. Go out for a while. If you want to have coffee at Angkan or whatever, go and have coffee.
So hindi healthy ang meeting through lunches. You have to have that break.
Well, meeting through lunches for me sometimes is also efficient. Because like now, I'm about to lead a program in our company. It's called Manners Make It Man. Because we have a lot of new people. And they want to learn how to behave in front of the C-suite and how to act, It's basic. It's just proper table manners and proper, communication etiquette. It's fairly simple. But the only way I can really make it happen and entice people to come is to provide lunch. So between 12 to 1, I'm going to hold the program. We'll provide lunch. Then we talk about live cases on how we should, be far more empathetic to our clients and at the same time be more effective and efficient as service providers.
That's interesting. That's also self-development, right?
Yes,
you get to learn
self-development,
all of these things. I like all the things that you're saying here. And what sticks to me right now is really that leaders must develop the culture of teams, build trusting teams.
Here's the thing. Like in the Bible, it says in Matthew 20:16, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Many are called, but few are chosen. I think leadership is really critical. That's why you really have to ensure that you really vet the leader you're going to appoint. Because it's really critical. At the end of the day, you have responsibility over your people. The decisions you make will affect your company. Whether palpak ang mga desisyon mo, magsasara yung kumpanya, you have a responsibility to them. Because you're talking about the livelihood of thousands of people. So kailangan talagang seryoso pag-iisip dyan. Hindi to laro lang na it's just an ego-building exercise. No, not at all. Too much is given, much is required. And when you're given leadership, it's far more difficult. And it's basically more of a 24/7 job. It's really tough, and only a few really can rise up to the occasion. So my advice to you, HR practitioners, really vet your leadership candidates because that's really critical. Because they will affect the organization and at the same time, eventually the lives of your own people.
So the leadership team is the most important team in the whole company, right?
Well, that's where the ideas and basically that's the brain trust of the company, right?
Yeah,
So that's critical.
I hear a lot of what you're saying, right? I mean, thrown as parang ang cliche minsan di ba? That you have to be a great leader, you have to build culture. But coming from you, right? Where you're
But
sitting
being a
on a
great
lot
leader
of
is
data.
proven. It's not
Exactly.
automatic. It takes time. You have to prove yourself.
And spend energy, I guess, to
Right.
build leaders.
Right.
So in a high-performing culture, you drive the performance, but you also need to drive culture. It's a
Well,
must.
sure, you've got to invest in your people, and you've got to model it on a daily basis.
I guess then is instead of making it parang such a painful must-have, right, that you have to actually lead your leaders, is to make that leadership role a very inspiring one, right? Then as you lead the team, the cohort, you also develop your own skills and your own,
Right.
life.
Even I learn.
Yeah, and that's work-life balance, right?
Yes.
Whatever it is that you learn from
Right,
the office, you
right.
bring it to your family. We're gonna talk about your family in a short
Sure,
while.
sure.
But before that, I want to talk about internal mobility in the company. Right? We have been used to a straight line, a ladder, a vertical straight line, right? You get promoted in the same function. Right now, we're seeing you apply for a job, you get into a role, and then you get pulled out and asked to solve problems of the other department. And then biglaan part ka na ng project team. You get invited to meetings you didn't sign up for, and then you become part of that team. You learn skills on the fly. This is really a lot of horizontal mobility, right? My question is this now the trend, the zigzag career path versus
Well,
a
I
straight
think what's really
line?
happening now in this world is that it's a matrix. It's no longer a straight line. I'll give you an example. Which, as I mentioned earlier, Willis Towers Watson in the Philippines is basically a global delivery center. So technically, it's a BPO. It's a KPO. It's a knowledge processing operation. And then the business I ran was essentially the client-facing side. It's the profit center because we do client work. We are the external. We're the external face of Willis Towers Watson. So what we realized, and I'm not profit center consulting broking side, wherein to interface with clients, you have to do public speaking, you have to present to boards and mancoms, etc. And if you have that knack and that skill and talent, then we're more than happy to have you. We don't limit the talent pool we have.
Do you encourage companies, because there are companies who are very big on expertise, right? You have to stay there, you have to develop the mastery, then you go up the ladder. But then there are also opportunities for you to actually cooperate, collaborate in different functions with different skills. So do you also recommend, without really making it a permanent job change, but really just have a very flexible flow state
Well,
in
if you
the
look at
company?
companies, there's the individual contributor track, and then we understand the type of talent that they just basically want to focus on their particular skill set or expertise. And then at the same time, there are people who become people managers, so they're more generalists in essence. So we basically encourage both tracks. But at the end of the day, if you really are a people leader, then you can switch immediately. Of course, it is necessary that you at least have a basic skill set for you to prosper and progress in a certain role, right? If you're gonna start from scratch. But if you're a people manager, then we let them thrive and we nurture them and give them that opportunity. Because at the end of the day, there are only a few leaders, as I mentioned. There's only a few leaders, it's few and far between. And if you have, and I always tell people is, you are golden or you're dynamite in any industry when you have sound technical skills and you have very strong people skills, then you can go anywhere in the world.
It's a very transferable, portable
Yes,
skill,
yes,
right?
yes.
So when you talk about matrix system, do you encourage, for example, people managers, especially the C-suite, to look into their org charts again and see if there's opportunity to actually change the org chart, because we are limited by our org chart, right?
Right.
Do you encourage them
I
to
encourage it.
relook?
Here's an example. I used to have a lady in our HR department, and she was not even a manager yet, but we saw a certain spark in her. She was articulate. She was proactive in her service. Then one day I said, why don't you cross over from being an HR analyst and come on over in the consulting side? And thankfully, that lady thrived and really did well.
Who initiates that? Because a lot of leaders wouldn't want to give up their talent, right? So,
Well, I had to
there
speak
needs
to
to
the
be somebody.
HR, to her boss, the HR manager. I said, this lady has so much potential. Will you allow her to move on over? They did. So there are no barriers in our company.
That's important,
We're very
right?
open
No
to that.
barriers, no
There are no
silos,
barriers,
no
no silos.
boundaries, so that people will not even look at invitations to work in another company, but just stay in the company, right?
Right.
And develop cultures, what you're saying. Then maybe we could find the magic pill for
I'll give you a very good
retention.
example. The head of our Global Service Delivery Center, he's a senior managing director, is Jeric Ramos. He started out as an actuarial analyst in our retirement business 30 years ago. So he was a math major. Then he realized that he enjoyed math, but that was not really the path he wanted to go through. So he moved eventually to our work and rewards business and became the head of our rewards data and intelligence business for Southeast Asia. So he pivoted from a specifically math related background, moved to rewards, then is now running our entire global service delivery center. And to me, the most successful Filipino we have in the company. And is recognized globally. So there is freedom as long as obviously you show your competencies.
What that's saying is that there's also a chance to grow new skills even
Right,
in whatever part of your life in your career.
Yeah, I'm 62 years old. I was just invited by the regional head recently to be part now of our executive compensation and board advisory practice. And I agreed because I'm comfortable in this setting, because I'm comfortable in dealing with the C-suites of this country and talking about business objectives, and how to achieve them. So I decided to join this practice internally in our company.
Wow, new skill also for
And a
you,
new skill
right?
for me, but we just had a successful project and it turned out really well. And I think I will be.
Learning has a no
Adopting,
stopping
yeah.
rule. We should always keep on learning,
Well, I think you have to keep on learning, really,
right?
especially if you're not as intelligent as me. You have to keep on learning.
Of course that you're very intelligent. I have a question on rewards. There are two types of rewards. Number one is you reward the employee, and the other one is you reward the teamwork, right? So for employees, for example, there's bonus that's given to them. The teamwork is you have a pool of money for which to be shared by the team that actually drives the result.
Right.
Now, there are two maybe sometimes opposing endpoints, right? You either drive teamwork, or there will be freeloaders, or you drive individual performance, but you forget the team. I mean, how do we manage this? What's the balance here?
I think at the end of the day, it boils down to integrity. Those who really deserve to be recognized should be recognized. Like in our company, we have a Hall of Fame award. Every quarter, we award people who have done exemplary well. Whether it's because of business development, you closed a huge project, a huge deal, or you're doing something great and unique for the company, which is distinctive. So what we do is that the people manager or whoever's responsible for that business unit should write the nomination. So you try to limit it. Of course, you've got to consult also the team who's working on it, who really contributed. Yung mga extra dyan, yung mga saling pusa, tanggal dyan, di ba? So
Walang freeloaders dito.
Walang freeloader. Just give credit where credit is due.
But how do you reward teamwork then? Collectively, a group of people work together. You forget whose contributions they are, but then together you're able to reach the
sometimes
dream.
you have this general social event and you bring the entire team and you gather for a decent meal. I think what I've really learned through the years is that reward should not only be done in the traditional tangible manner through pays and all that. I think another incentive is that just the reward, the tap on the back, and you say, Karen, you've done very well. Let's just go out and let's have lunch today. And I just want to recognize you for that. And that is extremely powerful for the individual.
Yeah, I think not more than the food, right? Overall, you're saying to balance both the reward structure so that...
But you really have to reward those who really deserve it. Because remember that there's envy inside any organization. We're humans. So there's envy. So just reward those who really deserve it, because you really have to call out those people who have done exemplary.
Is there space for stock options here in the Philippines? Because there's a lot in the United
Yes.
States. So you're seeing that, it's
there's
being
a
given
rise
now
now
more.
in this country. Right?
All right. Okay, that's very good. That's
So
great.
I'll tell you this. The great thing about the Philippines is that I know we have a multitude of issues and problems. But if you juxtapose us against our Asian neighbors, we're quite a sophisticated market. Of course, the level of talent here is really outstanding, as evidenced by you, Cherry. No, it's the truth. Because the people in the Philippines are highly educated, they're very articulate, particularly in English. We can compete anywhere in the world. But as a marketplace, I know we have a lot of economic and socio-political challenges. But the reality is that we're a sophisticated market. We're seeing now companies who are embracing employee stock option programs or long-term incentive plans. So what you essentially are doing, you're asking your people to have skin in the game or to have a stake in your company and feel like an owner.
Actually
Yeah,
gives rise to
yes.
entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
And enterprising skills.
Right. It will basically make you feel that I'm really a part owner or I'm really have a stake in my organization. So you get a piece of the pie. So that hopefully that will incentivize you.
You said something interesting there, and I couldn't migrate to another topic, but I needed to go back here. You mentioned something about the Filipinos being a sophisticated workforce, right? When you look at the compensation competitiveness of Asia Pacific, Singapore being number one, Hong Kong, then you have China, the last country is Philippines.
Used to
right?
be.
So where are we now?
It's a real anecdote. In the last roughly nearly a decade, there has been a lot of Filipino expatriates, talent overseas who's been coming home. Either for various reasons. Obviously, they want to come back home because, they want to be with their families and they want to raise their kids here, things of that sort. But what I've noticed is that pay now is highly competitive in Manila. Unlike, over 20 years ago, where Singapore was like 4 times Manila. No, you're seeing that the pay is becoming far more competitive and is reaching international standards. And at the same time, companies are willing to give some premium, whether through an LTIP, a long-term incentive plan, or providing, far more competitive benefits.
That's
Yeah.
actually very hopeful, right? I mean, with us being at the close to the bottom, right, in terms of pay competitiveness, and you're saying more people are coming back. My daughter is coming back to work here. Yay.
Things like that, yeah.
So it is important for us to keep on looking for innovative ways to reward people. Culture playing also
It
part of
doesn't
that.
necessarily have to be always on pay, huh?
Yes.
I noticed with the Filipino, just have an annual Employee of the Year awards. That means a lot
That's
to them.
enough na. Okay.
Naakit-akit sa stage, then his or her peers will recognize her. That will really boost their engagement and boost their productivity.
Okay. So we need to keep, I guess, as people managers, we need to keep putting fertilizers in our own
Oh, definitely.
grass so
Definitely.
that people won't look beyond the
Right,
company
right.
and even beyond the nation.
Lately, a lot of Filipinos have gone to Dubai, saying that that's the new, it's the new green pasture. But look at Dubai nowadays. You're in the crossfire of all those.
Yes.
You're in the trajectory of the missiles and the drones from Iran going to Israel and vice versa. So I think Dubai's lucrativeness is gonna fade out in the next few years. Because you're now a hotspot. Unlike before, I want to be in Dubai. It's so sophisticated, pays well. You can drive a Lamborghini if you want. But look at it. Can you drive a Lamborghini when there's a missile flying over you? So I'm just saying that everything is relative. The Philippines has its gamut of problems, but it's definitely home.
That's a very, very inspiring way to actually end our topic on, people.
Thank you,
and
Jerry.
I wanted to just ask if we have questions from our HR community, anyone who wants to ask a question or any insight that you wanted to share.
I'm sorry if I'm too talkative, ladies and gents.
We're enjoying your wisdom.
Yeah, it's not every day that you get to listen to James Matti, Coach Cherry. Maybe I wanted to chime in on the internal mobility piece because this is something that's actually close to my heart. I think based on my observation, I've worked for multinational organizations and local companies, the top local conglomerates. What I've noticed is that local companies tend to actually make focus in terms of skills as their strategy when it comes to developing people. Whereas for multinationals, it's actually developing the breadth of experience. Meaning to say, when you move from one role to another, it means that the company is developing you for a far more complex role in the future. But I think both approaches work. It depends really on the model of the organization. But from my own perspective right now, I feel like in terms of mobility, the actual challenge is really on the line manager ownership and flexibility. Because some of the line managers, I think to Cherry's point earlier, would say that, no, this is my talent. I need to keep this person in my team because otherwise, if I lose the person, I lose productivity and I lose my edge. So one barrier that we need to break as Filipinos in the workplace, I guess, as a modern leader, is the talent is not our own as a line manager. The talent is owned by the organization. And
Correct.
we owe it to the person. We owe it to the person to actually grow and take its full potential, look at their aspirations so that when the business need arises and the expertise is available, then we're able to make a bet on this person.
Yeah, I
So
fully agree with you,
just
Ron.
wanted to add
Yeah. Irvin, sorry.
that.
One of the
Yeah.
joys I really have is when I see somebody who used to report to me or a protege rise above the ranks and really, make it become successful in his or her career. And that really means a lot. Huh? If even if they leave and go to another company, of course it pains you, but you know that you've done something good to that person, that you've helped that person progress in his or her career. Thank you, Irvin.
Thank you, Irvin, for
Hey,
that. I like what Irvin said, that the talent belongs to
to
the
the organization.
organization
Yeah, definitely.
and not to a certain
You don't own the
department.
talent. You're not paying the salary. It's being paid by the organization.
Tama, no? Tama naman. So
Yeah,
I think
tama naman,
kailangan natin
oo.
mag-create ng conversations, I think, in the higher organization and hopefully led and championed by the HR manager. Because like, di ba, Irvin, kasi baka hindi siya masyadong nasa top of the agenda of the business manager, of the people manager. Maybe HR can actually initiate conversations like that. Let's look into internal mobility, anyone who could actually find value in the talent, for the sake of the employee.
One thing great about HR I've really realized now is that HR has successfully evolved. It's no longer pardon me, the poor second cousin at the back of the bus. It's now a strategic business partner. And it basically has embraced the strategic objectives of an organization in order to fulfill the opportunities and the promises of the organization.
And I also say thank you to AI, right? Because we are now ready to unburden HR with a lot of admin things. Tama ba, Irvin? Di ba? Yeah, and invite HR more to the table so that we could have meaningful conversations.
Agree. So I wanted to build on what James said. So one, HR really has a strategic role right now. It has a seat
Oh, more than
on the
ever.
table.
More than ever.
HR has earned that spot. But number two, I think to the discussion on having conversations, to me, it's not just really on the conversations being started by HR and the line manager, but as a company, we need to put in infrastructure. Meaning to say, I think James mentioned this a while ago. Are there job postings? Are these postings available for everyone? Is the employee encouraged to actually apply for that role? Because this is where the challenge comes in. So two things: it's really line manager approval or nomination, and then number two, keeping tab of the aspiration of the employee. That's the
You're right.
reason why for me, career conversations
You're right,
are
Irwin.
very, very much.
So I think the structure should be made agile together with the mindsets of the people running the organization so that there'll be flexibility and agility relative to talent movement. Because if you can have a mindset that no, I'm allowing our people to cross over and do other stuff within the organization. However, you have structural stumbling blocks like your pay may not be agile to your pay structures, and at the same time, your job leveling may likewise be a stumbling block. I'm sure you could relate to that, Irving. So make sure that your job leveling and job grading is likewise agile, so the person can, they can cross over to any or worthwhile opportunity in their
And that's
midst.
when we talk about org transformation,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Look into the org chart, look into the leveling, the pay system, so that it becomes a little bit more fluid, right? When you want to move
Right,
people.
definitely.
All
And
right.
there should really be collaboration between the business and HR relative to your strategic objectives. Because at the end of the day, you're only as good as the talent you have.
I love this. I love HR. I love people, and I love that it becomes top of the agenda. And we are going to keep on, working hard to make sure that people become the most important part of any
Oh,
conversation
definitely, definitely.
of leaders.
Yeah.
I want to thank the HR people who are part of our community. Thanks, Irvin. Thanks,
Irvin,
Ron.
thank you.
Thanks,
Good to see you. I hope to see you around.
Charmy. Thanks, Kat.
Likewise.
Yes. I just wanna move a little bit to your personal life,
Yeah, sure.
right? You and your wife have a project. It's called the Green Earth Heritage Foundation.
Yes, yes.
And what you did was to actually look into 100 hectare of barren land and
Right,
convert
right.
it into an organic farm.
Right.
Tell me more about this vision.
So we established this foundation in May 2009. It's 17 years old now, and the land was given to us. It was donated to us. It was 107 hectares, but we have no ownership at all. We have no personal ownership or commercial ownership on the land. We basically are its stewards. So it's named after the foundation. So everything goes to the foundation. So everything we sell, our organic moringa tea and organic moringa powder, and our cookies made out of organic green banana green flour, all go back to our farmer beneficiaries. So for me, because we came home, we were blessed. We had a decent life in America. I lived there for 7 years. My wife lived there for nearly 29 years. And we've seen how, the huge disparity in wealth. Because if you really look at it, in a UNDP report, the poorest of the poor in the world are farmers and fisher folk. So we have, in one way or another, we felt, we have to do something and to alleviate poverty in our country, in our small neck of the woods. So we decided to do something here that we started to shift the mindset and the culture of the people there from destroying the farmland and shift to our organic, sustainable agriculture. Number one. Then when we established, began to establish a community there. Our first farmer, our first farm manager was from UPLB, and at night she noted that kids will be knocking on her door, borrowing pencils, borrowing Crayola, borrowing paper. Then we realized that there is a need to be fulfilled here, that education is really critical because the farm was basically an hour and a half by walking from the nearest elementary school. And when the typhoon season, the monsoon season comes, it's very difficult to cross because the river is extremely perilous and it's raging water. So it's dangerous for a child to cross. So we decided to establish a learning center in the middle of our farm through the help of some generous individuals. We built a learning center, and then eventually we partnered with Acer Philippines, who donated 30 desktops to the learning center so that our kids can have a more modern education. Then my wife did some research. Even 20 plus years ago, we were doing already Khan Academy already, wherein this executive from Goldman Sachs was teaching his nephew in Pakistan via the web on math, science, and English. We were basically using virtual tools to educate our kids. So those computers really helped. So when I arrived there, candidly, hardly anybody could speak in English, probably just yes or no. Today, the people can speak in English, they converse in English. We have about a 3,000 book library in our learning center. And the offshoot of this is that one of the farmers' kids, who you know, Cherry, graduated from Harvard University. He graduated in 2023. So what happened is his route to where he came about like this. My wife's a doctor. She's a physician. Her name is Dr. James Matti. So she began to teach English, math, and reading to the kids every weekend. Then she noticed this kid was standing out relative to his English skills. And then eventually, we met up with some other like-minded individuals. And one lady who's a UP Diliman grad who took up child education at Columbia said, I just established a preschool in the International School of Manila, and they have a scholarship for indigent children. Maybe you want to enroll this kid. So we enrolled this kid, and he passed with flying colors. And then he got into a scholarship at the International School of Manila. And what happened there was that the superintendent of international said, um, if you will only allow that he would live with you and you would take care and nurture him, because the previous indigent scholar they had was the son of a tricycle driver from Navotas, and that kid would go home every day from the BGC, where international school is, to Navotas, and he lived in a hovel, so he had a difficult time adjusting. So this time around, we had to take a gamble, and we were requested, can you please provide him the necessary lodging and support for him to thrive? And I said, of course. So this young man lived with us has lived with us right now for the last 15 years. And so he made it to international school, graduated from ISM. And then my wife said, our faith should be big. So we should trust in a big God. And we should aim for really the top-notch schools of the world, because ISM is an international baccalaureate, an IB course. So that can give them the springboard to study in the top universities of the world. So initially, his guidance counselor was saying that, I don't think he's ready for the big name schools. But my wife told her, I'm sorry, but I'd like to argue that we have big faith, and we believe that he will be given an opportunity to compete in the larger universities, the more prominent universities globally. And out of the five, he passed in all four schools he applied in. So he passed in Dartmouth, Wesleyan, NYU, and Harvard. And of course, we had to make a decision where to go. So he decided on Harvard because obviously there's a cachet relative to Harvard, both here in the Philippines and globally.
So this personal journey of yours, right, to give back to society, I mean, just speaks very well of how large your heart is.
Because this is it, Cherry. We're just passing through this earth. We're only stewards of what we have. Because you really have to be cognizant of the fact that there is a huge disparity of wealth in this country. And by our own small sphere of influence, hopefully we can be significant change agents. So that's how I feel. That's why we're extremely committed to Green Earth Heritage Foundation. And I always tell people that God really has a great sense of humor, because He gave us this farm in the foothills of the Sierra Madre in San Miguel, Bulacan. Then all of a sudden, binagsak niya kami doon. And now we're committed. But the great part is, aside from the fact that, I see lives improving.
This is a story of hope, no?
Oh, it's a
that
great
we
story,
are able
yeah.
to do that and to use that level of power and influence given to you for the greater good. I think that speaks very well of the kind of steward you
Thank you,
are.
Jerry.
So thank you so much. Before we leave, I have one last question for you. Maybe you could choose. I have 3 cards here. It's fear, it's shame, and it's ego. You choose one, and I have a question for you. When is ego helpful? When is it hurting the system?
It's very, very profound question. Ego is good only when, let's say, for example, you need to boost the confidence of other people. So it has to be infectious also, but not in a negative manner. But you've got to show that you are self-confident, and you show it by being articulate, by modeling yourself. So I think ego is necessary if you want to infect other people, but it is detrimental if it is self-seeking. If you're always thinking about yourself and your own benefit. So as I realize that in this world, it sounds a bit chaotic, but you've got to be selfless. Because as a leader, at the end of the day, if you really want to model yourself on Jesus Christ, it's servant leadership. You show leadership by serving others and by, proving to others that you can be of help. Because at the end of the day, here's the thing. You'll get paid, and you'll get paid on time, especially if you do well. But if it's money which is your main motivation, it will never satisfy. There are far more noble things than
Yes.
money.
And that's very well said, right? That the universe is benevolent and we have to keep working for the higher good. James, Willis Towers Watson has offices in 140 countries, right? You have
143
about
countries.
you have about 50,000 employees,
Yes,
and
right.
your partners have so many employees. You're doing so much good in this world.
Thank you, Cherry.
And yet, I look at your personal life, how you've helped through your foundation, and most noteworthy, of course, is the life of Romnick here. Thank you so much for doing that. You have planted so many big seeds here. You have
Thank you for this
extinguished
distinct opportunity.
Yes, and you have extinguished
Thank
so
you.
many limiting beliefs. Thank you so much. I want to end here by sharing one of my favorite quotes from the movie Moana. The grandma said, "I don't know where your story will lead to, but you should never stop looking for who you are." I look forward to James version 2.0. Thank you so much.
I'm so honored.
Maraming salamat. Continue to learn.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Cherry Africa PUA podcast. I hope you leave this conversation with something, a thought, a feeling, a question you hadn't asked yourself before. Remember, the best companies, the best leaders, the best humans, they all start with the same decision to actually see the person in front of them. You have everything you need to be that person. Behave better, think stronger, feel with empathy, Godspeed, and always be awesome.